It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the Clark Howard Show, where our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. And remember, we're here to serve you day and night, or night and day, whichever you prefer, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What is it, that thing people were saying for a while, 24/7, 365. We're there for you at Clark.com and ClarkDeals.com. Speaking of deals, prescription drugs, no deal or deal. We're going to talk about what we're going to see moving forward as a result of President Trump's executive order on prescription drugs. And speaking of prices, I'm going to talk about the sticker shock from the price of beef right now. Yuck. Ugly. I'll share a real-life example with you when I talk about that. So the president issued an executive order that was both a blessing and a curse for drug manufacturers. You know, we pay the highest prescription drug prices in the world in the United States. Much, much, much higher than anywhere else. And I've talked all kinds of strategies about getting prescription drugs, particularly in Canada, for Americans instead of buying them here in the United States. And the president, what did he say? There was a blessing and a curse for drug manufacturers. He was beating up drug manufacturers for how much more drugs are in the United States. But he was also taking direct aim at one of the biggest ripoffs in the United States healthcare market, and it's known as pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs. If you have any kind of drug benefit from the place you work, you almost certainly have that drug benefit through a PBM. These are organizations owned by insurance companies that live off of kickbacks that they get for the prescription drugs fulfilled through them for the employer plan. Employers sign up for these PBMs because they think it's the cheapest way for them to provide a benefit to their employees. But the employees end up getting ripped off again and again because the pharmacy benefits managers are taking these big kickbacks, raising the price of the med to you and me, and you and I are paying more than we are as cash customers, which is key to what the president talked about, is for people who pay cash for drugs, getting lower prices than people who have insurance plans. Okay, so think how weird that is. You think of having insurance as a way that you end up having to pay less money. But in the upside down world of healthcare and insurance companies and pharmacy benefits managers, you and I end up paying more most of the time for our prescription drugs under most employer plans using the insurance instead of just paying cash. I fill almost every prescription I have through Costco. Why? Because Costco marks up meds no more than 14%. So the Costco price on prescription drugs is so crazy cheap that it's cheaper than I can fill through the drug plan I have with my insurance. So I essentially, basically never use that health plan benefit because it's not a benefit to me. It rips me off. And so who knows how this is all going to play, because a lot of the things the president did in this executive order really are just like using the bully pulpit of the White House, of the Oval Office. They don't have force of law. That's up to Congress to implement some of the things or whatever they would choose to of what the president was talking about. But what he did talk about that you need to know is you need to comparison shop what you have to pay for a med through your work plan versus what you would pay just paying cash. Now, as many people have said when I talked about this last year, is that, well, I'm not running these prescriptions through my drug plan, which eventually will help me with my drug plan because I'll meet whatever deductible there is in it. And if you're in a situation like that, then you ignore what I'm talking about. But for most people, what I'm doing is the best thing. Just paying direct, paying cash. And by cash, I don't mean cash specifically, right, Krista. I mean,
gotcha.
You can pay with
self-pay.
At Costco, yes. What do I use at Costco?
Of course, use your Costco signature card.
Costco Visa card and get an additional 2% off the already cheap price.
All right. Well, 2% back, right?
2% back.
All right, we'll go to some questions. This one's from Lucy in Florida. Is it a good idea to purchase a warranty from companies that offer coverage for your vehicle that's no longer under warranty?
So, no. Lucy, almost without exception, the companies that market so heavily on television, they're running these ads all the time for you to buy their extension or service contract or warranty on your vehicle. They make it look so impressive, but then if you go look online for reviews, you'll find that people repeatedly are left hurt. They paid all that money for that extension of a warranty from these third-party companies, and then when the chips are down, something really bad happens with their vehicle, they don't pay. Now, the way it tends to work is when you buy one of these third-party warranties for minor things, they'll do those because they're not enough money. But when it's a big thing, they stall, or they ignore. The other problem in the industry that happens repeatedly when you buy an off-brand extension of a warranty from a car dealer is these are sold as what are known as packs to the dealer. What's a pack? So they'll sell you something for $2,500 that the dealer maybe paid $150 for. There's no way they can insure a car, the repairs a car would need for $150, right? So you're in a position where you paid these thousands of dollars, the vehicle breaks down, and it turns out the company is long gone that the dealer sold you the warranty from. So the best thing to do is if you want to extend the manufacturer's warranty, you do so with the manufacturer itself, because then you've got the manufacturer providing that warranty to you. That is so superior to any of these third-party warranties. And there may be somewhere hiding in some cave a third-party warranty that's okay. I just haven't seen it yet.
Okay, Angie in Indiana wrote in with this one. I was talked into an annuity from my insurance agent in 2004. I didn't have a great feeling about it since it was a mandatory buy-in for $50,000, and I said no. I could do $20,000, and he said since he was looking out for me, he could overwrite it as a favor to me. I called 2 days later and tried to cancel, and he talked me out of it. So now in 2025, he is retiring. I hadn't thought about it until I started listening to your podcast. What can I do now, 21 years later, to benefit me?
Okay, this is a great question. So you've been in this annuity for 21 years, so you're past any what are known as surrender charges, meaning that you don't have to pay a penalty for exiting from this. First question I'd have is, what's it worth now? Has it increased a meaningful amount from the $20,000 you put in? If it has, then maybe your return has lagged where I'd want you to be, but hopefully it is worth a lot more than $20,000. You can, at this point, you're obviously still working, Angie, or you wouldn't be talking. You're not asking me how do you use it now in retirement, you can exchange it for a better annuity, potentially. The hard part is finding somebody who will talk to you about annuities who will do so as a fiduciary. Fiduciary means somebody who's not a commission salesperson, but somebody who is knowledgeable and can place you in one commission-free that would be an appropriate replacement for this one. Because once you're in an annuity, basically you're in it. So I would like you to go on Clark.com and look at our guide on finding a fiduciary, someone who legally is bound to do what's right for you instead of what lines their pocket, and find out the proper exit strategy into an ultra low cost replacement for this thing you've been in 21 years.
Okay, and this is from Jerry in Connecticut. Clark answered a question regarding excess liability insurance umbrella. Clark gave good advice to the person with $3.5 to $4 million in assets, and we would all be wise to protect ourselves against schlocky attorneys looking for deep pockets to go after. However, he didn't mention that in many states, IRAs, even Roth IRAs, and primary residences are protected against such judgments. In many cases, this would reduce the need for umbrella coverage by 50% or more, depending on one's situation. In my case, it's 75% of assets.
Jerry, what a good point. And, Connecticut is one of a handful of states that provides near solid protection from lawsuits for IRAs. That's not generally the case across the country. So IRAs in most places potentially are at least at risk. And oddly enough, there are some states that haven't updated their protections for IRAs to include specifically Roth IRAs, where they have old statutory language that protects from lawsuits traditional IRAs, but not Roths. So this is a dicey area. If somebody has millions of dollars in assets, though, you're going to know the answer this way, because you're going to have sought out the services at some point of a lawyer who specializes in wills, estates, and trusts to make sure your will is done properly to minimize tax exposure and risk at the time you die. We'll know what the use of trusts may be, or LLCs, in your overall financial picture. And they would also at that time be able to give advice specific to your state about what Jerry's talking about your risk as somebody with a large amount of assets to having any of that money at risk from lawsuits. I had talked, I think 2-3 years ago, I talked about a doctor whose daughter was in an at-fault accident where the doctor had bought minimal liability coverage on his vehicles and ended up personally bankrupt from the judgment from court against his daughter, which ultimately was against him because she was a minor, from the accident. Liability coverage is very important as what I call a success tax if you are in a position where you have a great deal of assets. And in your case, Jerry, you're talking about you're not at risk as a resident of Connecticut. What happens if you later in life move somewhere else in the country? You decide to move who knows where, then you got to reevaluate that and make sure that you are as protected in the future as you are right now. But I appreciate so much you pointing out that I ignored the shield that might be there in place in some places for IRAs. I should also mention 401ks around the country have more protection as a general rule than IRAs from judgments coming after that money. Coming up ahead, oh boy, beef prices are going crazy. It's a real incentive suddenly to become a vegetarian. I'll tell you what's up. So I was teasing just moments ago about it would be a great moment in life for me to become a vegetarian. I'm not that direction, although I am very much, is it called a pescatarian now? Since I had my aortic valve replaced, fish has become a very important part of my diet to keep me ticking, to keep me alive. But I about passed out when my wife Lane sent me out weeks ago for a family cookout to buy ground beef for the cookout. And right after that, I see a story in the Financial Times that the cost of beef has hit record highs in the United States. And it's because the amount of beef available has reached its lowest level in how long? Since the mid-1950s. Can you imagine? Think how few people lived in the United States 70 years ago. A fraction of the population we have now, which I think is somewhere around 340 million. And the beef supply is lower now than it was in the mid-50s. It's because of multiple years of drought in the mountain states in the West. And so the number of beef cattle way, way down. So the average price of a pound of ground beef, now $5.79. That's a huge amount. And steak, unreal. So I go to Costco to buy beef for this family cookout. And I was supposed to buy ground beef. But there was a sign, there was a special deal for that weekend on filet. And do I love filet mignon. So I go over, and one pack of fillets, and it wasn't that big, was $70. $70. And then at the checkout, I'd get $10 off. I was like, not doing it. And so I ended up going to Aldi because I'd read a review about these Aldi smash burgers they're selling, and they were so good. And they were a lot cheaper than they were in a regular supermarket, but they were still a good amount of money. So think about this. When you look at the advertising that the hamburger chains are doing, what are they all pushing right now? They're pushing chicken. They're pushing chicken so much you'd think they were Chick-fil-A. So that's what people do. Just as the restaurants are product substituting chicken promotions for beef promotions, that's what we do in our own lives, is we eat more fish, or we eat more pork, or we eat more chicken. That's like a Chick-fil-A slogan, eat more chicken. Anyway, we change what we consume. And that's what this is going to require, because the cost of beef going crazy. McDonald's reported really bad numbers for the first sales numbers for the first 3 months of this year. And it's because they're in a cost squeeze, that the McDonald's target customer is looking for a deal when they walk into McDonald's. And a non-deal deal is when you have to pay a value menu price or a value meal price more than $10. What people in their minds expect they're going to pay $5 or $6 for is now over 10. So that's the deal, is it's not a deal right now with beef, and you got to rethink. Eventually herds rebuild, supply becomes more plentiful, but that's going to take time. In the meantime, you got to protect your wallet. And Krista, I know you think the whole lesson I should take from this is being a vegetarian.
No, that's not true.
Not true?
No, I'm really a pescatarian too. But I don't think red meat's necessarily bad. And I think, I'm not going to go into it. I'll just say.
No, I love that.
Aldi does sell grass-fed red meat, which is a lot of people think is a better choice.
No, you've always talked about grass-fed.
Yeah.
Versus what? What do you feed
like
cattle otherwise?
Corn and all sorts of that kind of thing. So
and that's bad?
To make them grow fast. I don't know. I'm no scientist, like I've said, but you might as well it just seems right that they should graze on grass, right?
Yeah, so I got to talk about how I've had to change my diet. If you're not aware, in December of 23, I had life-saving surgery. I had something called a TAVR, where I had a defective aortic valve from birth, and finally it gave up. And I was dying. And so I had this operation, and then I got 2 diet lists. One, the things I couldn't eat, which was page after page after page after page, and then the things I could eat, which was this really short thing. Short. That was like a pamphlet. The other was like a book. And so I've had to really adjust what I eat. And I've learned I never was into fresh fish. And now I eat fresh fish all the time. And I've learned to really like it.
That's great.
And, I used to love going to Chick-fil-A and have a Chick-fil-A sandwich. I can't do that anymore because it has more sodium in one sandwich than I'm allowed all day. Mm-hmm. And sodium is deadly for my valve. And so now I eat the Chick-fil-A grilled chicken sandwich, which at first, being so oriented towards fried food, having to get used to something that was grilled took a minute. But now I really enjoy eating it. Everything about it, except it's $2 more for that than it is for the original.
But
Chick-fil-A sandwich.
certainly healthier, not just the sodium, but having it grilled instead of fried. So that's great.
Fried isn't automatically good for you?
So I did bring you in, Costco. I'm sorry I'm going on so long, but Costco has a Kirkland Signature, like organic no salt spice, which I think is delicious. And I brought you a little of it. Did you try it?
I forgot all about that.
It's good. I put it on my eggs.
I forgot all about it.
Speaking of not being a vegetarian. All right.
Well, you were for a while, weren't you?
I was never a full on. I mean, eggs aren't vegetarian. I've always eaten eggs. So, all right. Now we're going to get to the questions. I am really sorry, everyone.
No. I just want you to think how many things we just talked about that people are going to submit as Clark Stinks, either about me or you.
I know.
From us talking about food. Every time we talk about food, we get a lot of Clark Stinks. If you want to post one, go to clark.com/Clark Stinks.
Come at me. All right.
What about me?
No, I think
I deserve it.
LJ in Illinois says, I'm in my late 60s in relatively good health and for all intents and purposes, an elderly orphan. I do have some family, including a son who lives in another state, but has been estranged from the family for many years. That's too bad.
I'm really sorry about that.
I currently own a home with a remaining mortgage of about $90,000, along with sufficient financial assets to last beyond my living years. My question is, because I do not want to leave any portion of my estate to any of my family members, can I arrange to have my home and possessions, along with any other assets, left to a charity of my choosing? I've already contacted a couple of attorneys, but was informed they do not provide a service where they handle the distribution, packing, and selling of property. If I leave a will naming a charity as beneficiary, will the charity manage everything I leave behind?
Okay.
And this isn't, I have to say, sadly, LJ is not the first person we've heard from in this situation. Like, people write in, at least, I'd say once every couple of months, saying they aren't sure what to do when they don't have any heirs.
Right. So, LJ, you must have in mind some favorite charities. And if you do, you want to contact the charities, the charity that you'd like to leave your home and possessions to, not your money specifically, but your home and possessions, and tell them, here's the deal. I want to name you as my heir. You'll have to make arrangements to pack and sell my stuff off and do all those things in return for receiving my house and my possessions. And you'll have charities that'll say, okay, we can handle that. And others that'll say, well, that's very nice of you. We don't have that capability. You want to interview the charities that you're thinking of donating to at time of your passing, and see how they feel about this, and do they have that capability. You're not going to have a lawyer who's going to do that for you. It'll be a charity that they might hire an estate sales specialist to sell off things or whatever. There are these companies that sell off possessions more than just you think of with a simple estate sale, where they handle the inventory, they handle everything. And so you do that, and then you have a lawyer prepare the will naming those organizations as beneficiaries. And I want to make sure, though, that you say you have enough assets to make it the rest of your days. I'd like you, if you've got serious assets, I'd like you to sit down with a financial planner, a fee-only fiduciary financial planner, and make sure you have enough assets in the event you need care in your home or you need assisted living or anything like that. Do you truly have enough money to carry you through a period of your life where you might need extensive care?
This is from Jay in Georgia, and he's following up on Christopher in Florida's question on the podcast. He says, I had a similar issue where I bought an expensive item, a dive computer, on eBay from a seller with no feedback, red flag. I got shipping information and got notice that it had been delivered, but it was not delivered to my address, but another address in the same zip code. Long story short, the seller used a tracking number from an Amazon package going to the same zip code. After reporting the issue...
Wait. This was an eBay?
Yeah, it was an eBay purchase, but they used a tracking number from an Amazon package that was going to the same zip code. After reporting the issue and going to the post office, I was able to find out the actual address associated with the tracking number. I actually spoke with the residents at that address, and they confirmed that they receive a lot of Amazon packages, but they were all computer parts, no dive computer. My speculation is that it may be possible the scammer either works at Amazon or has a friend that works at Amazon, and they can look up shipments going to the same zip code to assist in the scam. I later saw the same item with the exact same pictures on another eBay auction, and the sellers on those also had other eBay auctions, and the sellers on those also had zero feedback. An additional warning: if you're going to file a claim against eBay's money-back guarantee, wait until the last possible date to file any chargebacks on your credit card. Once a chargeback is filed, eBay will wipe its hands of the whole issue and nullify any money-back guarantee claims. It's in those terms of the guarantee.
Okay, this is phenomenal, because when we took that question before, we were like, what in the world is going on? And you, playing detective, figuring out what the scammers are up to. And it's supposition that it's insiders at Amazon creating this theft cycle. But this is really crazy. And I think the most important thing that we heard from both posts is that when you're buying on eBay and there's zero reviews of a seller, and it's an item that is selling at what seems to be a really good price, you got to smell a rat. You got to be really, really careful. And you have helped a lot of people here, both of you who posted, by pointing out that this is a ongoing scam activity involving purchases on eBay. Now, let's go to the eBay guarantee. The eBay guarantee sounds very impressive. It's very bureaucratic. You have to be very persistent to be successful with a claim on eBay against their guarantee for failure to receive goods. And especially in a case where something shows delivered, eBay treats you, in my opinion, as guilty till proven innocent. So you have to be very politely persistent with eBay to get them to honor their guarantee. Wow.
And this is from Kevin in Iowa. What are the advantages and disadvantages of purchasing stocks through the Robinhood app? Are these investing apps safe?
Robinhood is safe. Robinhood has been a disruptor, and Robinhood is who you can thank for why so much stock trading now is free. They're pretty much a break things kind of company, Silicon Valley kind of, hey, let's try this, let's try that. And some of their ventures have not worked out so well. But Robinhood is completely safe to use, and it is a deal using Robinhood. For people who use it a lot, using their premium offering is a good idea because of all the additional benefits you'll get from them, including really good rates on savings and eventually on a checking account or checking account type account, something like a checking account from Robinhood. Speaking of investing, we're out of time on today's podcast, but I wanted to mention again my longtime friend and colleague, Jonathan Clements, who was the personal finance writer for the Wall Street Journal forever, who wrote in such a clear way that from novice investors to very sophisticated investors learned column after column from him. He has terminal cancer, and he's come up with a plan to turn our kids into lifelong savers and investors. And so he's got a new book out, and it's where in his book, you're able to read his most important columns that he wrote through the years. It's great for adults, but it's really designed for younger, early investors to become smart at how they handle their money, not just investing, but through their lifetimes and every day. It's called The Best of Jonathan Clements, Classic Columns on Money and Life. And you can buy it right now on Amazon. I assume it will be other places. And you're going to love this. I love this. All the proceeds from the book are going to fund the Roth IRA project. See, I've always said I was the man from Roth, but maybe Jonathan is the man from Roth. And it's all about getting people in the mindset from when they very first start working to put money into a Roth IRA for tax-free growth, tax-free spending way down the road. And Jonathan is somebody I'm going to miss, because not only has he been a great writer, he's a phenomenal person. And thank you so much for joining us today. You know what we're devoted to every day is you learning ways to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off.